My name is Ellie-May Buckland. I'm a DIP WCF from Hertfordshire, just north of London, England.
You know, the very essence of the mental game is this. The only reason an event matters is because we make it matter.
Welcome to the Mullins Farrier Podcast.
I had a soccer coach, and he always said, we are going to be the fittest team always out there. Because in the moment, you don't want to be worried about being tired. You want to be focused on the soccer game.
Right.
Which is what's going to translate for me, hopefully, in the CJF, is that I'm not worried about being tired. I can focus on the task at hand.
And granted, he was like, get your specimens made. 3 months before you take your exam, get all your AW specimens made. And it's good to have other people putting that pressure on you as well. Sometimes if it's a single journey, and you've not got mentors that are coaching you, helping you, you kind of rest a little bit.
If you're hearing this, you are currently on the non-subscriber feed. If you would like to hear this episode in its entirety, please subscribe using the link below. If you're a student, apprentice, or just find yourself in a situation where it isn't financially feasible to subscribe, please reach out to me on Facebook or through the website. The good folks at Out West Design and Fabrication are lending their support by helping us to cover your scholarship subscription. You can check out many of their incredible projects on their Facebook page. Out West Design and Fabrication, your choice for farrier rigs. Now here's a sample of this week's episode. Thank you for listening.
Most people that I know in this industry only want the best for the other people in the industry, which is a pretty cool thing.
Welcome, everyone. If you saw my long-winded Facebook post, you already know that I completed my first attempt at the AWCF exam in England about a week ago. People have been asking me about my trip, and one of my most frequent responses has been that it has restored my faith in humanity. I was helped in big ways and small by so many people in the farrier community over there. The amount of time and effort folks invested in helping me have the best shot at passing the exam was humbling. Whether it was Jamie Hughes driving 6 hours round trip on a weekend to help me prep for the exam, and then 6 hours again to be my brilliant striker on the day. Or Spud Allison, who put in extra effort into a floundering forger to be more efficient with his forging so that I could finish within the 2-hour time frame. Or the Army farriers, who helped all of the candidates feel at home in their forge, allowing them even to practice in their fires and drink all of their instant coffee. Or Danny Bennett, who drove my butt all over the British countryside to ensure that I had the best 2 weeks of prep one could ask for. I can't stress enough, my farrier friends, what an incredible experience my certification journey has been. I've had strangers from all over the world become my friends through the AFA, FITS, and now the WCF exams. I've heard it the world over from farriers that for some strange reason, clients have become more difficult over the past few years. So much so that I hear of many farriers planning on cutting back on their work or throwing in the towel completely. After the past couple weeks, though, I can tell you one group of people who haven't changed and, in fact, have become more inclusive and supportive over the years. And that is your peers in the farrier community. When they see you try to better yourself, they get behind you to help you get there. So do yourself a favor, pick a certification goal and pursue it. Sign up for every relevant clinic and ask to spend time with mentors who have done it themselves. Hang out with others who are on the same journey. Struggle and succeed. And hopefully, this entire experience will restore your faith in humanity too. Today's guest has played a large role in helping a group of super keen Mexican farriers to better themselves and pursue the AFA exam. I met Ellie-May on my first trip to England. She introduced herself and said, "I hear you're joining us in Puerto Vallarta this year." I was indeed, and got to spend a lot of time getting to know her on that trip. I tried multiple times to get her to do an interview, but to no avail. But ask anyone with a restraining order on me, and they'll tell you I am persistent. And last December in Mexico, we finally had that conversation. Ellie-May drops so many tidbits of wisdom during this chat. We talked a lot about setting client boundaries and adhering to them, as well as maintaining a healthy work-life balance. So typical, it's the seemingly quiet folks who have all the best advice to share once you get them talking. I hope you enjoy this conversation as much as I did. How did you end up in Mexico?
I don't really know. I qualified, done the exchange in 17, and then worked with a whole bunch of people there. Vern organises it. And he contacted me in 18, I think, in the summer of 18, and just said, I'm doing a clinic in Mexico, fancy coming along? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. And I think because I'd worked at Dusty's and Mike was there, he'd asked Mike to come, and then he said to him, who else do you think would be a good fit? And apparently Mike said, oh, maybe try Ellie. She was all right. So yeah, love it.
Cool. When you did your exchange, where did you end up in the US and who did you end up working with?
I done like 10 different states. I worked with a lot of people. So I worked my way from Fort Worth. So I was with Chad Ferguson. And then I think I'd done 1 or 2 days with Rick Garrison. They were really cool. Then I went to Dusty's in Oklahoma. I was in and out of there really for about a month on and off because there's so many people there. And like the day I got there was a certification day. So I got there and there was like 150 people milling around. And the next day was a dissection, I think, or maybe that was the first day. Cody Gregory done a whole horse dissection. That was cool. But from meeting all the people there, I would then hop out. Like Ashley took me up to Kansas for a couple of days with Jason Rotrammel, come back. And then I went with one of the students up to Cody and Chris at Heartland for a couple of days, then back. And then we went to Utah with Kelly Liptrop. That was real good fun. Nevada was the last one. So that was David Sierra.
Yeah, I was going to ask if it was David's.
Yeah, David Sierra. On and off for a couple of weeks because it was the WCB were there. So we were competing, but my best mate and my sister came over. I stayed with him until they came over, and then I went and stayed with them in the hotel, and we just went to the WCB, competed for the day, and then off we went to PBR and wandered around. Yeah, it was really cool. So yeah, no, I had a great time with everyone. Met loads of people. I was with Vince Vesely and Kristen Sell in New Mexico. And then it was like a 7-hour drive from her house. And we met up with like 13 different farriers. There was loads of us there. So we went to, I believe it was Chris Madrid's shop.
Oh, cool.
We all crashed there. And then the next morning we left early. So we done like 5 hours to the shop and then we left early, done 2 hours. There was like 13 of us at this place, shod like, I don't know, 70 horses or something. And we were in a Buffalo Wild Wings at 2:00. It was nuts. I didn't know where I was meant to be going in this barn, but everyone just had their station. They knew what they were doing.
So this is a frequent thing that they do?
Yeah. Like every 6 weeks, they'd
okay.
meet up and
do this one whole barn.
I mean, if someone can't make it, there's enough of them to make it up.
Right. Yeah.
That was great fun. Worked with a lot of good guys there. A lot of the American team were on that as well.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Cool to see how they work and what they do and how they work as a team too to make everything flow.
Yeah.
A lot of the time I felt like I was in the way. So I was like, sorry, just get a broom. Done the Lazy E with Dusty.
Mm-hmm.
And that day, I think also there was about 15 of us shoeing that day. And it was like the second week of the students, like where they just started their session, their block or whatever they do. It was mad. These students were under all these horses and they're shaking. And he's like, you're fine, carry on.
Haven't developed the muscles yet.
No, but they love it. And it's great because there was so many people there. If you needed a break, you got out and you held the horse and someone else would jump in and get it done.
Right.
And again, that was, I think they'd done just over 200 horses and we were done by like 3:00. Very different to what I was used to in the UK. Very different because my whole apprenticeship was 1 yard. So I never really went anywhere or worked with that many people. So to get out and see teams working in different barns, different scenarios, different horses, but they still know where they're going, what they're doing, how they flow, because they do it so regular. You can't argue when you see a good team working that way, getting it done to a good standard permanently.
Right. Yeah, there's a whole technique to that. I often think of that when I'm in the heartland or hear about Dusty School. There's a special talent to the teachers to be able to stand there amidst all of that chaos and know which student to attend to, or like who needs help and who doesn't really. They can actually work through it.
And like they'll be standing there helping someone and they'll hear something tinging on an anvil and they'll just turn around and be like, stop, what are you doing? They're not even looking. You think, wow, that was really cool.
Yep. Yeah, I've seen them even call out like that shoe's not flat, and they haven't even, they're just walking by.
Mad. You can have so many tries at trying to teach someone and then it just doesn't go in. And then someone else will come over and they're like, oh yeah, I get it. And it's what whoever was trying to say before, this other person has just said it with a slightly different phrase.
Yep.
And it works.
Yep. I had that experience with Dusty this summer. Cody's been pounding these certain lessons into my head for years now, and I'm still not getting them. And then Dusty would walk by and he's just like, hey, you're doing that wrong. Do this. Yeah, I know it's what Cody's been telling me, but
Light bulb.
Yeah, exactly.
But it was nice to see, like, if someone had been trying to teach you for so long, realize that you weren't getting it, they would go and grab someone that would probably teach it in a way that that student would know, because they've worked so well for so long. They know how each other explain things and what's going to fit for each person. That was nuts. But yeah, I learned a hell of a lot on the exchange.
What sort of things do you think you brought back home with you from that?
A lot. So all I done for 4 years really was plating. And then I sat my exam, failed my practical by 1 mark. So I then had to do another 6 months. I then went out and worked with other people 1 day a week that would teach me to hot shoe and basically make them fit. So Tom Smith was one of them.
Oh, cool.
Super cool. Helped me massively. Broke so many things down for me. Even the way I clenched. He was like, you're very much in a racing clench mode.
Right. Yeah.
You need to switch this up. Do this, do that. Awesome. John Sutty was the other guy. He was a Warwick College teacher for years. When he was helping me, and he was shoeing police horses. I think he still does them. And I would meet him for like 6 a.m. and then it's like a 45-minute drive to work. He used to drive down the road and it was on a police site. So he had the forge there, the horses would come in and he would have me make them fit all day.
Oh, cool.
Awesome.
That would help that exam prep.
What I never ever done here was pads. I never done many of them because I was in a racing industry.
Right.
So when I went to the US, it was September to December. Snow season. I learned how to fit a snow pad.
Snow pads. Yeah.
They were like, oh, we need snow pads. And I was like, I don't even know. I don't know what they look
that?
like. And they were like, oh, and they flung this like inner tube at me and they were like, cut that to size. Sorry, what? Figured that out, got that done. And then I ended up working with, Travis Swenson. I was working with him for a couple of days. He had another guy working with him and they had a whole barn where they had figured out one would fit a nail, one would trim, and my job was pads, like attaching the pads to the shoes. Yeah. I learned that day how to do pads. The other thing was I'd never, ever torched a foot in my life to get a sole out.
Never needed to?
Never needed to.
Yeah.
And then when I got here, they were like, oh yeah, here's a blowtorch bottle of gas. And I was like, okay. And he was like, just torch the foot and cut the sole. I was like, yeah, you're going to have to show me. And they're like, oh, okay. So then once they showed me, I was like, okay. And then I'd do it and make sure they were watching so that I'd get it right. And he was like, just try it without torching the foot. It was like concrete.
Right.
So he was like, okay, now torch it and you'll see the difference.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Learned loads. Probably one of the other things was like working style. So the way that we worked in the UK, it was get as many done as you can, really.
Yeah, because you have to do numbers to make money, right? Basically.
Whereas when I went to the US, there was one day I went and worked with Rick Garrison, and there was 3 of us in the barn, and we'd done 5 sets. And he was like, cool, we're done. And I was like, this is awesome. Like, he actually has a life. He doesn't just work.
Right. Yeah.
I kind of took that back home, which is hilarious because I now only do, on average, I'll do 4 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
I'll work a weekend if I have to. Generally, that's only when I'm
Coming to something
coming
like
to
this.
something like this. And it's on my terms if I'm working that weekend. But a lot of the people in my area laugh at me. They're like, you've got it sus. You don't work too hard. Like, you don't do this, you don't do that. And I'm like, well, yeah. I mean, you can too. But they've already created that amount of work.
Yeah, they've created a monster that kind of gets out of hand. Yeah, I've been
Trying
there.
to cut people's hard, right?
Yeah.
It's easier to say yes and keep people happy than it is to say no. And you're not taught how to run a business when you go to farrier school.
I thought with that much schooling that's involved with you guys, that would be a component of it.
Maybe different now. I'm not sure because they have restructured the system.
Right.
But when I was there, we didn't get anything. We got, I think it was a 1-hour lecture on different types of businesses that you could run. So you could be a sole trader, a partnership, a limited company, all those different things. But we weren't taught how to run a business. And I think you would probably learn that from your boss when you're out and about on the road.
Right.
But I was in one yard 6 days a week. So I didn't have that as part of my apprenticeship. You learn the hard way, I guess.
Or you don't.
Or you don't. Yeah, exactly that. I'm quite fortunate in that I have good friends and some family that have previously run their own businesses, not necessarily shoeing, but
Right.
others. It kind of crosses over, I guess. A business is a business. So I would speak to them a lot about how I can word stuff. I'm not very good with my messages to people and how I deliver stuff. I'm very direct and I am trying to be a bit softer. So I would often send a message to someone and be like, does
Can you
this sound
proof this?
okay?
Yeah.
Or am I too much? And they would completely reword it and bring it back to me and be like, this is saying the same thing, just do it that way. So still learning,
Mm-hmm.
still picking it up.
There's something, it's come up a lot. I remember in conversing with you last year that I was like, you have the whole boundaries thing sussed out, which I struggle with, but you're very good at this is business and this is not. This is the rest of my life. So how do you think you learned that? Or is that just innate? If you would like to hear this episode in its entirety, please subscribe using the link in the show notes. Thank you for listening.